Hey everybody, how are we doing? I am back. It is Liverpool transfer news update time. My name is Dan Club. I'm here for the next half an hour or so to talk all things Reds and transfers because, after a quiet couple of days, obviously Liverpool playing a game kind of contributed towards that. Everyone takes their eye off transfers when the Reds are in action, of course. We are back, and we are back with a bang because there's reports aplenty to be talking about. Liverpool looking at Gravenberch again. Liverpool are back in for Andre. Liverpool looking at defenders, possible outgoings. It's all going on, and that's what we like. Obviously, after the surprise arrival of Wataru Endo last week, there was some sort of speculation about Liverpool could be done in the window. What happens next? Where do we turn? James Pearce saying we're not after a specialist six has kind of thrown a spanner into the works. But listen, there's still stuff to be talking about. And let's do it. I'm be honest with you, I don't normally say this about myself. I haven't been here for a week or so. I haven't sat here for a week or so. And I've been looking forward to it. And it's a good day for it as well. Because like I say, there's loads to talk about. And I've been the one kind of making the news. I kind of made my own agenda for today, which is nice. It's nice to talk about things that you know about. And speaking of which, I'll start with the Andre stuff because in the chat, there's some Gravenberch stuff going on. Please get involved as we go along as well, by the way. Feel free to throw any comments at me, any questions, anything you want to know, ask. Football related or otherwise. Let's have a nice half an hour. It's lunchtime. I'm in a good mood. Let's have a nice half an hour. And Sif, I can't, that's not a name. Sif, what's going on about Andre? Can anyone update me, please? Yeah, that's why I'm here. And Jez Snazzle says the reason why the club has to wait until January for Andre is his present club, Fluminense, that is. Their season ends in December. If you're up to date with the club, you would know this. Not difficult. Don't like your tone there, Jez. But you are right, in essence, the fact that Fluminense would rather sell in December stroke January. It'd be January for us, of course, because our window opens in January. But it's a bit more to it than that because they would sell now if Liverpool meet the release clause. But more importantly, is Fluminense are desperate to keep hold of Andre because they want to win the Copa Libertadores. They play a game on Thursday night against Olympia in that very competition, and they've never won it before. And they obviously see Andre as a key part of doing so. So they are really trying the hardest to keep hold of him. Now, I've been told by Emmanuel Luis, Brazilian reporter, of course, that Liverpool wants Andre. Andre wants Liverpool. That's despite interests from Manchester United, Barcelona, and Fulham. They're three clubs I never thought of using the same sentence, but here we are. But Andre wants to come to Liverpool. So much so, I've seen a couple of you mention it in the chat. The personal terms have, I've been told, been agreed between the club and the player. Andre's happy to become a Red. It's just a case of the club sorting it out, I guess. Now, what was said to me is that they'll look to do so for January, but there's more reports emerging overnight in Brazil and sort of this morning as well that Liverpool may well, and I've seen Harry bring it up here, Harry Kalinj says, I think we may try and get Andre now, possibly. And I think the reason Andre went off the radar for so long is quite clearly because we went after Lavia so heavily. We went after Moises Caicedo for that glorious 24 hours. And then neither of them happened. So we've signed a stopgap. We've signed a good option, one for the here and now in Endo. And the question is, and it kind of ties into what Mel Reddy was saying, and James Pearce, of course, as well, in that Liverpool wanted a destroyer and a specialist six, Endo, and they wanted someone who can do different options, a more multifunctional one, a more progressive one. Now, for me, that's Andre, and another lad I'm going to talk about in a minute is Ryan Gravenberch as well. Both lads who have played the six, are comfortable in the six and can do it, but also lads who've got more strings to their bow. And I actually think the Andre one is, if anything, is more interesting, and Rob Davis brings it up here. He references, and I agree with you, by the way, Rob, that would be brilliant business. I'll touch on the centre-back stuff in a bit more detail later on. But Andre in January is fascinating to me for so many different reasons, because obviously I'd rather get him now, because why wouldn't you rather sign a really talented footballer right now? Of course you would. But the fact, if you want to get him cheaper, by the way, it's January, because his release clause is 40 million euros, or you can get him for like 25 million euros in January. I mean, no-brainer. But the fact that it'll be then, Endo is likely to go away with Japan to the Asia Cup. I think that's the back end of January, possibly into February as well. So you'd have somebody in through the door to cover him while he's away on that. Obviously, Pacetic comes into that as well, as does Thiago. But Thiago is actually a really interesting point on that, because the likelihood is that we lose Thiago. Obviously, next summer, he's out of contract next summer. I don't think we're going to give him a new deal. I'd be very surprised if we did. I think he's boss. I think he's a wonderful footballer, but it's not likely we give him a new deal. So having Andre through the door mid-season in January to learn and to... Listen, he could come in and he could hit the ground running and just be wonderful forevermore and happy days. But having him in for 6 months, learning from Thiago, learning from the other lads that are there, Szoboszlai, McAllister, etc., and becoming a more rounded Liverpool player before really hitting the ground thereafter, it makes loads of sense. So I'm excited by it. I am. I don't, like I said, I'd rather it was now. But if it can't happen now, then, what are you going to do? And we did it with Diaz and Gakpo in that we brought them in January, give them some time to bed in, some time to settle without really any pressure. And we see how brilliant they become. And like I say, Andre could come in. And if we are doing something like this comment says here, F. Champ Ulasan says, they might give us the adrenaline. Oh, God, I didn't realise it was a bad joke. There was a little arrow on my screen over your comment before I brought it up. I missed the hyphenated joke, and I wish I missed it altogether now. But to the point, you do make a good point, in as much as if we're pushing for, a title might be optimistic. Hopefully we're pushing for a title. But if we're pushing for the Europa League, if we're pushing for the FA Cup, God forbid we're pushing for top 4 again. Hopefully that's all quite smooth sailing by then. But the FA Cup, whatever, Andre could be the difference maker, and he could come in midway through the season and push it over the line. So I'm just trying to put a positive spin on the fact it might be January and not now. And a lot of people will look at that and say, well, it's FSG being tight, it's this, it's that, it's the other. And there might be an element of that. There could well be FSG trying to save a little bit of money. As long as we put that money elsewhere and sign a centre-half, I'm not that annoyed by it. But I think more importantly what it might be is it might be Fluminense saying we're going to keep him until the end of our season. We want to win the Copa Libertadores, the South American Champions League, essentially. And it could also be a little bit of Andre not wanting to upset Fluminense, the club where he's come through the ranks. He's came through the academy there, and he might not want to really rock the boat before he leaves. He might be quite happy leaving on good terms in a few months' time. So that's all speculation on my behalf. But what isn't speculation is the fact that the conversation I had last night with the Brazilian reporter, Manuel Lees, is very legit. Like, he has told me, he was the first one to say Liverpool wanted Andre a long time ago. He told me last time the scouts have been down. Those reports have since been sort of verified and corroborated. Last night he was telling... It was funny because I had this conversation when I got in from work in my kitchen, because, professional and that. And I kind of thought, wow, that was amazing. Like, he's telling me that personal terms have been agreed. He's telling me the ins and outs of the deal, the fact that it's going to be 30 million euros plus a 20% sell-on clause and all that stuff. And you're thinking, God, this is amazing. Like, how good is this? Like, and then I went to sleep later on that night, woke up, and there was like 5 different reports from Brazilian journalists, including one who I spoke to before, who had DM'd me on Twitter with his report saying, look, this has been an update. And I'd already been told it a few hours before, and it was just nice. It was a nice moment. Just nice to have things sort of, like I say, nailed down and rubber stamped. I've missed a comment I want to chat to there. We just flew up. Sorry, let me just go back. 20 million plus Thiago for Gravenberch is a rumour that's been flying around. Thiago back to Bayern. I haven't seen that rumour, to be honest with you, Mike. One of our members here. Thank you very much for the comment, buddy, but no, I haven't seen that. I will be able to live with that, just about, I think. I don't want to lose Thiago particularly, but yeah, I'd be okay with that, because we've got to lose him for free anyway, I guess, next summer. So, Cyber Rust, Hincapié. I've been reliably informed that is pronounced Hincapié, so I'm going to stick with it. Has the same agent as Caicedo. Yeah, he does, which is a concern. I had a conversation about Hincapié this morning, actually, with Bundesliga commentator Kevin Hatchard, who likes him, rates him, thinks he's a talented lad, thinks he's ready for the Premier League, thinks he'd adapt well, he's aggressive enough, he's physical enough and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, he said he's got mistakes in him, but he's 21 years old. What amazed me about him was, to go off topic for a second, he's got like 27 caps for Ecuador already, and he's 21. That's a lot. Like, Andre, I know it's Brazil, Ecuador, two very different sort of footballing powerhouses, but Andre's got one cap for Brazil. I think he's played 20 minutes, and this other lad who's a year younger has already got 27 international caps. Cyber Rust comes back. If we get Gravenberch and then Andre and Jan, I'll be really happy. Although we really need a centre back. I agree on the first point. I would be over the moon with those two, even in that order, now and January sound. And I'd be I tell a lie. I'd be really happy with those two, and then I'd be over the moon if we got a centre back. Because I agree with you, mate. I'm desperate for us to sign a left-sided centre back. I'm just going to scroll up because there was a comment I wanted to bring up. Cyberrust, yeah, maybe, mate, yeah, and also again, I reckon, Jez, come on, mate. Like, I appreciate the comment and stuff, but let's be nice to each other. It just felt a little bit negative to me, and I don't do negative. Speaking of negative. Alex Blackburn, hi Dan, hi mate. If Liverpool think Andre is good enough for a January purchase, then why wouldn't you buy him now? Release clause. Can't expect Endo to be the final solution for 4 months. FSG saving money. Joe, I think I kind of addressed that without seeing the comment a minute ago, to be honest, buddy. And listen, you might be right. You might be right. And it could just be down to FSG penny pinching, wanting to save the 14 million difference or 15 million difference, whatever that is in pounds. I'm not talking euros, of course. But I actually think it might be different. I think it might be more of a case of Fluminense putting their foot down and Andre not wanting to be upset his club. I don't know. But maybe we think if we sign another one, if we do sign Gravenberch now and then get Andre, then that equation you just come up with there is completely out the window. But listen, if that's the case and we are just saving money, I agree with you. I think that's a bad decision. Fan of Drac, yeah, it's quite funny. It's been a long time since I did one of these, right, mentioning Lavia or Liverpool's pursuit of Romeo Lavia. Yeah, I've already mentioned him once in the fact that we didn't sign him. But yeah, it's been a while. Mike Andrew, one of our members as well, good man, says, I'd be happy as a pig in a proverbial with these boys. Yeah, so would I, mate. So would I. In Capier, Gravenberch and Andre, I tend to, for various points throughout this summer, I've been like, I'd like to get Thuram, Kone and Chilwell, for example, off the top of my head. And it's interesting how it kind of, the dial moves all the time and different names come and go. And now, as I'm sat here, I'd be happy with Gravenberch, Andre and Hincapié. They're my 3 right now. And that could change by tomorrow. That could change by the time we speak again, to be honest with you. But as things stand, they're the 3 that I'm... and look, so is Salim Bajrami as well. They're his 3 as well. So look, we're all in agreement. This is nice. Hopefully Jez can return and be in agreement as well. Welcome first teamer, Kev Bennett. How are we? I've got the board right there. Have you just joined the first teamer? We've got a new overlay going on. I assume that means you've just joined as a first teamer. Kev Bennett, I remember that name. And Brazilian Reds TV, welcome as a wonder kid as well. Look at that. There we go. I'll put them on the board now before I forget, because I'll forget. Give me 1 minute. I've got the board with me. I don't usually, but I thought ahead this time and I put it on the chair next to me. 1 second, let me grab the pen. It's a long way away. There we go. So we had Kev Bennett and I'll just do this quickly and I'll return to what I'm actually here to talk about. Kev Bennett, there we go, and Brazilian Reds. It was TV at the end, wasn't it? Yeah, TV. Cool. There you are. Hopefully you can see it, because often a light gets on this board and you can't see it very well. Not bad. You're on there anyway. I promise you. I've voted them there. Nice one for getting involved as members. Throw the board away. Hopefully. Well, I say hopefully they do that again. I'd like to use it again, because that means more of you are coming on board, but I threw it a little bit. Are people talking about Calvin Phillips? Like Imran there? Dear me. I was hoping I wouldn't have to touch on that, but Liverpool, yesterday there's reports talking around saying we wanted Calvin Phillips. You can tell by the sigh and the dejected look on my face. I have no interest in Calvin Phillips. Brazilian Reds TV, good morning, Redman. Thank you, our new member. Thank you very much. Good morning to you too. It's actually afternoon here now, but yeah, the point still stands. Good time of day. Hincapié, Wayne says, will be a great signing. I'll be honest with you, I didn't know loads about him. I know a little bit more now than I did first thing this morning off the back of my conversation with Kevin Hatchard. But yeah, I think Profile-wise, he makes loads of sense, doesn't he? 21, left-footed, plays left-back, plays centre-back, currently managed by Xavi Alonso, of course, at Bayer Leverkusen. So if ever there's a man you want to be teaching your footballers what to do with football, Xavi Alonso's right up there as the best, isn't he? So, yeah, I'm open to that possibility. I think he does make some sense. And he's actually decently experienced for somebody so young. I think he's got 76 appearances for Bayer Leverkusen. As I mentioned a minute ago, almost 30 caps already for Ecuador. So, yeah, I'm in. And another South American lad. And I know his agent, by all accounts, is a bit of an arsehole. And Cyberus kind of raises that point here. But I suppose we have kind of dealt with him now in one sense. So I'm not quite sure how we left that negotiation. Not quite sure it was on great terms, to be honest, but listen, we know what we're dealing with now at least, and possibly the ground might be a little bit smoother potentially. Let's just see. Let's go through some more of your chats. Let's see what we're saying. Red Scout TTV says no positives here. What? So Liverpool have reportedly agreed personal terms with a very talented Brazilian lad who's been capped by Brazil. I'll touch on the story I wanted to touch on now because I haven't done so yet. And it comes from the Mirror. It's about Ryan Gravenberch. Don't need to tell you about Liverpool's interest in Ryan Gravenberch necessarily because God, we know about that. That's been around for 80. And the Mirror website, by the way, is atrocious. I've got to say, for adverts and stuff like that, that is pop-ups galore. Anyway, Liverpool are interested in Ryan Gravenberch. We've known that for some time now. We wanted him before he went to Bayern Munich from Ajax. I've spoken to dozens of people about Liverpool liking him as a footballer. And now this report from the Mirror, this line here, I'm pointing, you can't see it, I'll do the arrow. Bayern Munich won 22 million if they had to sell out of favour midfielder Ryan Gravenberch to Manchester United or Liverpool. And it said Mirror Football understands that the two Premier League giants are locked in a battle over the 21-year-old Dutchman. On that, more generally, I guess then, it's been a really frustrating time for Ryan Gravenberch, hasn't it, since he went there? I think he was expecting to play a lot more football than he has. Obviously, last year, I think he started 3 Bundesliga games, and that was it. Came on to sub a decent amount of times, but given how talented he was and how sought after he was from his Ajax days in the Eredivisie, I think you would have expected a bigger role at the Bundesliga champions, but didn't happen. They obviously got Goretzka, Kimmich, and then they signed Konrad Laimer. So he's sat on the bench for the Super Cup loss and then sat on the bench for their win in the Bundesliga over Bremen on Friday. Hasn't come off the bench at all yet. He played against us in the pre-season game for a little cameo role for half an hour. It's basically a 10, by the way. But he's not happy. He's not happy at all. The Manchester United interest is a thing. And the fact they've got Erik ten Hag there, who obviously managed him at Ajax, probably a factor in all of this. But if he's available, even for anything like that £22 million that I've just spoken about there, Liverpool, Manchester United will be all over it. Like, absolutely all over it. And why wouldn't you be? Because for that's a no-brainer. Because even if... And that's kind of what Bayern Munich saw as well, I think they thought. Because I think they signed him for a little bit less than that. I think he's like 20 million euros or something. Even if it doesn't work out, that fee at this day and age, and the same can be said for Endo, by the way, as well. We paid like 16 million to get Endo, and I think it will work out, by the way. I think in a year's time we'll reflect on that deal as being quite smart, quite savvy. Not the transfer we all hoped for. That was Moises Caicedo, despite his horrendous debut for Chelsea on the weekend. I think Endo will work out, but for that fee, does it really matter if he doesn't in terms of money? Like, yes, it might impact what Liverpool are doing, but in terms of the actual finances behind it, it doesn't matter a great deal. And the same for Gravenberch for that money. Like, that's crazy, crazy low. Lee Dobson raises the point, this is back about Andre, of course. Could we be waiting to see if Fluminense progress before triggering release clause? Possibly. I think I'm right in saying the first leg is on Thursday. They play Olympia, who I think they're a Peruvian club. Someone might correct me on that. That is a thing, quite possibly. That could be the case. But I think the second leg is on the 31st. So if we're waiting to see if they get knocked out or progress, we are cutting it fine. Like signing a lad from Brazil with medicals and all that kind of stuff and media duties and everything. Media duties can wait, of course. But medicals and, paperwork, that is a huge risk. If we are waiting for that. But we might be. And we might be confident that if we get beat 4-0 in the first leg on Thursday night, who knows what happens there. I've seen another comment there, which I want to try and find. Sam Walker. Is that Sam Walker? I know a Sam Walker. If it's you, hi mate. Everyone wants a left-sided centre-back, which makes sense because Virgil van Dijk can't play every game, but are people thinking as the backup ought to play left-back instead of Robbo? Because it looks like Klopp is sticking with the back four. See, I don't think he's sticking with the back four. I think we've been kind of... Well, the thing is, it's a back four when we haven't got the ball. And we didn't have any of the ball against Chelsea, like 30-odd% possession, which Klopp himself described as a joke, by the way. I think he'd like to go to the box with Trent more often than he has done in these first few games. Obviously, we end the game on Saturday with 10 men, so you can't do anything. You end in a 4-4-1. And I think in an ideal world, it would be Robertson tucking in as a left-sided centre-back when we're dominating possession and everything's sound. But we just haven't seen it yet. And to the point, that means Robbo has been playing as a left-back and they've been fine because he's still a boss left-back. What he isn't boss at is playing as a left-sided centre-back. So with the Hincapié or any left-sided centre-back, for example, I agree with the Virgil van Dijk thing because you might need a little bit of rotation in there. But I do think it's more to rotate Robertson. And Hincapié has played like 32 games as a left-back and 36 as a left-sided centre-back. So that makes so much sense. Like, he can do both. When we've got the ball and Trent goes into midfield, Hincapié tucks in alongside Van Dijk and Canate. It's... Yeah, as you can imagine by the tone of my voice, as you can probably tell, I'm up for it. I'm keen. Jose Cambanero with a super chat, $4.99 US. Thank you very much. People complain our scouts are bad because we don't sign any unknown gems, yet we scout and sign Endo, who is a gem, and people complain he's a no one. I'm reticent to say he's a gem because he's 30 years old. For me, a gem is younger. Yeah, I think. Listen, I think it'd be a good signing, and I think like I say, I think we'll reflect on it. Having few people criticised it in certain quarters, I think we'll reflect on it quite well. I think possible sort of cult hero status pending for Endo, something like that. I think he'll just come in and do a job. He'll absolutely relish every single opportunity he gets. I think he'll love playing for Liverpool. He's always dreamed of the Premier League. I've spoken to dozens of people who know him far better than we do. And yeah, I think he'll be a sound footballer for us. I really do. I think he'll do a boss job. But I wouldn't call him a gem. And I think the point you make about the scouts is interesting. Obviously, Andre falls into that category. If we do end up getting that deal over the line, he has been spotted, if you like, by Liverpool. But for Endo, again, it's more the fact that Schmadtke knows the Bundesliga market so well. He obviously it was always going to be the case. We were always going to delve into Germany when he arrived. Obviously, with Szoboszlai and now Endo. And Jurgen Klopp. Like, Jurgen Klopp, as much as he's a Liverpool manager, as much as he's been here for 8 years now, he's always going to be watching the Bundesliga. He's going to know the ins and outs of the Bundesliga week in, week out. Of course he is. And he'll have known about Endo. You can tell. He's the way he spoke about him, the way he spoke to him. He knows what he's all about. He knows what he's getting. So, yeah, that's why it makes sense. I've seen a couple of comments which I wanted to bring up. Let me have a quick look through. I've seen somebody asked a minute ago and it's completely gone, so I massively apologise. I have lost it. It was essentially asking, why do we know Andre's going to be cheaper? And I really do apologise for losing the name. I should have it. Basically, why do we know Andre's going to be cheaper in January as opposed to now? Because Fluminense stance on it, really. They've said pretty much from the outset that if you want him now, it's the release clause. If not, it'll be cheaper, but you'll have to wait. So I think that's pretty fair enough. Alex Blackburn's applied to me. That's nice. Thanks, Dan. I think my personal frustration now stems from FSU willing to spend the money for one player and seemingly reverting back to perceived norm of trying to save money. You never walk alone. Yeah, you know what, mate? I agree with you. That's kind of exactly it. Like the Caicedo stuff hasn't skewed people's vision because that's too far, but it has altered the thought process of this summer in particular. Because the minute we put that £111 million bid on the table, everyone went, well, that's the budget. And I'm not sure it was. I think that was the budget for Caicedo because we thought Caicedo was so much the answer. And I actually agree, despite his horrendous debut for Chelsea. And that's twice I've mentioned that. I actually agree with that viewpoint because he's a wonderful footballer. He would solve our six issue before Endo and some, quite frankly. But I think we probably sort of went above and beyond our budget to try and make that deal happen because he was the answer so much. And Liverpool have done this before. We did this with Alisson, Van Dijk, of course, but more sort of poignantly, we did it when we went and signed Luis Diaz from Porto and a little bit of Cody Gakpo because they weren't planned transfers for those windows. But because of Tottenham's interest in Diaz and United's interest in Gakpo, we went and pushed the button on him then and there in the January windows. And I think the Caicedo stuff was a little bit of that as well. I think we were probably delving into January's budget to try and get Caicedo, possibly even next summer's a little bit as well. So I'm not sure. I think it's a little bit of a red herring, that figure. Now, listen, that's not to say Liverpool can't and won't still spend 111 million between now and the end of the window, sort of factoring in the Endo fee already, of course. But I do think everyone kind of looking at that and going, well, that's how much we have to spend. I'm not sure it's as cut and dry or as black and white as that personally. But I could be wrong. I've been wrong before. And there's a super chat there then, but it's vanished. I'll scroll down and try and find it. There's one. It's Crossbow. Klopp could turn Gravenberch into a star. Trust me. I trust you, my mate. Thanks for the super chat. Thanks for getting involved, as always, buddy, regardless. Yeah, I agree. I think Klopp... I think he really likes Ryan Gravenberch, and the fact we wanted him last summer suggests that as well. I think we would have a star on our hands, and I'm really surprised by the way it's gone in Munich. To be fair, I thought when they signed him, I thought he'd be absolutely quality for them. He's got everything. He's big. He's strong. He's athletic. He's good on the ball. He's good in tight spaces. He shoots from distance. I think he's a superb footballer, and although he's not an out-and-out six, get him in. And he'll play a six a little bit if you want. If you've got Endo, Bajcetic, Thiago, Gravenberch can do it a little bit, McAllister can do it a little bit, Curtis Jones can do it a little bit, and then you've got Andre coming in January. That's okay. Is it perfect? No. Was Caicedo perfect? Probably. You bend and flex with the times. You've got to be adaptable these days. Liverpool have learned that the hard way this summer with Fabinho and Henderson going unplanned. Gamel.ad, £2 super chat as well. Thank you very much, my mate. Says, watched doucoure last night. He wasn't that impressive. Yeah, it's interesting how doucoure is now the flavour of the month. To use probably... That's a comment, that. Yeah, doucoure, 70 to 80 million pounds one for doucoure, and I'm just not sure Liverpool see that as sensible. We obviously didn't see 50 million for Lavia as sensible for a long time. I think the same could be said for doucoure. I think doucoure, he's had a good year of Premier League football. Obviously, he won Palace's Player of the Season last year, so very impressive. I like him. I don't like him £80 million worth. And I think the biggest problem there might be the fact that Palace would want to sort out a replacement beforehand, which, by the way, Andre, last night, they said, Emmanuel Luis told me that Fluminense had already signed someone to play in that position. And they had a young lad coming through the ranks who they were also very excited about in the same position. So that's already kind of box for them. Whereas with Palace and doucoure, we haven't got much time left in the windows to get our business done. So imagine you sign doucoure and you leave Palace even less time. So yeah, I'm not... Possibly. Like, who knows? And if we did sign him, because I think he's okay. I think he's a good player. I think he'll do a job. 80 million is a lot for a lad, though, isn't it? It's a lot for a lad who could just do a job. He's 23. He's not old. He's not massively young. He's not Lavia young. He's not Caicedo young. I don't know. I might be being unfair. I'm just excited. I'm just excited by Gravenberch and Andre now, as you can probably tell. I'll go through some more chats, because after all, that's what I'm here to do. It's not just about me talking rubbish. Although, contrary to what I do most of the time, that is what I do. Yeah, I think we're all good. I'll just touch on... Oh, hang on, there's one more here. Jonathan Davis. Hi, Dan. I think Endo could be one of those inspired out of the blue signings, just like Guy McAllister. Yeah, Guy McAllister's the one who's been sort of... James Milner comes into that category as well. Kiriakos, to a lesser extent, comes into that category of sort of cult hero. Someone comes in, past their prime, in inverted commas, does a good job, boxes it off for a while, and leaves, and is always kind of remembered for being wonderful, for being sound. And I hope Endo does turn into that. I really do. I'm going to bring up this comment because I want to. It's me, says FSG and Schmadke out. This channel keeps on defending FSG. Why? I'm not sure I've defended FSG since I've been sat here. What I did speak about was the budget. That was not defending them. That was more me saying what I think is the case. That's not me defending it. That's just me saying this is probably what's happened. And I think that's okay. But in terms of the comment itself, I sit here, every time I sit here, I say, Liverpool needs to do more business. Liverpool need to sign more footballers, etc., etc. I don't know what more you want me to say. And I've said the same today. And Liverpool need to sign another midfielder and a centre-back. I've said it again for you. Bejan Reds TV, is that Canadian dollars? I think that's Canadian dollars. Again, yeah, do in Toronto. I mean, if I'd have read the first line. Sorry, I know you can all see it, but it's different here. It is definitely Canadian dollars. Thank you very much, my mate. $6.99. I'm in Toronto. Early morning for me. Florentino Louise would be a great fit for us at centre-back coverage. What are your thoughts? Yeah, Louise?
From about 51 minutes.
Oh, Chloe. Okay, thanks. Sorry, Chloe just popped her head in, which is a delight, of course. What's your thoughts? My thoughts on that are, yeah, he's a good player. I think the release clause was staggeringly high on him, and I'm not sure we're willing to pay it. And do we really want to sign someone who, I mean, Endo offers centre-back coverage as well, if that's the route we're going down. But do we want to sign someone because they'll play there and there in terms of a midfielder and a defender, like those two massively different positions? I'd rather sign your midfielder, who can do a few different jobs in there, and then and then sign a centre-back, thereafter. Another super chat from, that's Aussie dollars, is it? 5 Aussie dollars from Baked. Endo is good, but lacks physical qualities of pace and power. Gravenberch won't fix that. Crazy FSG to turn to another stopgap in a rebuild window. FSG out. I'm going to have to try and decode that. Gravenberch has pace and power. If you're saying he won't fix that. I'm not sure about that. I get this. Do you know what? The stopgap point is an interesting one because obviously he looks very much like a stopgap. He's 30 years old. He wasn't necessarily on the radar and he cost 16 million. So yeah, that ticks all the boxes of being a stopgap. However, I think for me, it just felt like we'd obviously missed out on Lavia. We'd missed out on Caicedo. So we needed to do something, and we needed to do something quick. And we kind of looked at the options, assessed where we could go, looked at the Bundesliga, which is obviously, like I say, a market Schmadke and Klopp know really, really well. People talk about the Anfield agenda. I brought it up for a reason, and then never commented on it. So yeah, that's probably all you need to know on that answer, to be honest. But yeah, as I was saying, we probably looked at what was sort of available to us, and we probably saw Endo and thought, well, we can get that in and out pretty quickly. Like, we were linked with him one night, and he was wearing the number 3 shirt like less than 48 hours later. So that's probably why we looked at that and thought, we need an answer now. Who's the best lad we can get through the door as quickly as possible with minimal fuss, and we know we can trust and will do a job. And that's why we come to Endo, and I'm okay with that. I get the outcry for... I said yesterday on the podcast, I don't care whether Liverpool spend £500 million or £5 million, as long as they get the right lads in. And if Endo's the right lad, happy days, let's crack on and let's get behind him, let's get behind us sound. I'm not bothered how much they cost, as long as they end up playing boss fussy for Liverpool. I don't care. Regan says, sorry I missed this earlier, haven't we only got one more space for an overseas player? Yeah, I think you're right. I haven't checked that for a little while, to be honest. It's been a couple of weeks, but you're probably right. Obviously, Gravenberch doesn't take up a homegrown slot, so he wouldn't need to be registered. And I don't think Hincapié does either, because he's also 21. So I think you'd be okay on that front too. So we do have a little bit of wiggle room in terms of them two signings. Andre, different kettle of fish altogether. He would very much have to be registered, I think I'm right in saying. Maybe there's something to be done with Thiago there. Who knows? If we sign a left-sided centre-back, I've said this all summer. I'm not saying anything earth-shatteringly groundbreaking here. If we sign a left-footed centre-back, I don't know what happens to Kostas Tsimikas. And I like him. I think he's a sound footballer. I think he's a backup to Robbo. Happy days, no problem with that. He's never going to oust Andy Robertson. We know that now. when Andy Robertson hangs up his boots, whenever that is for Liverpool, Tsimikas, I don't know, he won't be a million miles behind him in terms of age by then, so I don't see him sort of being the successor to that either. I think if we sign a left-sided centre-back with good time left in the window, I wonder what happens to Tsimikas, because he feels like a player who needs to be playing football himself. He's in the prime of his career. Why is he not banging down the door and saying, I need to play? If we sign someone who can cover for Robbo, I wonder with him. I do. Robin Hood gives us $4.99 as well. Taking from the rich, giving to the poor. There's a joke. I know I do that every time. I've come up with a good joke for that one day, I promise. Has Inacio signed his new contract with Sporting, killed that deal for us? He is the left-sided centre-back that excites me the most, but the €60 million release clause, too much. He did get that new deal, didn't he? And that release clause was up. I think it was around the €40 million mark beforehand, maybe even less, to be honest. I'm not sure it's too much. It all depends what we do in the midfield. I still think we're addressing the midfield before we even cast an eye on the defence, which is right, of course. The midfield was the major issue last season. There's no two ways about that. But yeah, I think it's the right approach to get the midfield boxed off first, and then with whatever money's left, if that's €60 million, go and get an Asho, no problem. You won't see me kicking off about that. Anyway, I think I've caught up with them super chats. I apologise if not. Massively apologise if not. I'll just scroll down to the bottom of the chat. Make sure I've not missed anything. I've got one more story just to run by you dead quickly, and it's on the defensive front, actually, funnily enough. And then I'll round up, and then I'll go, because people are waiting for me. Anxiety with a chat there. Where's that gone? I always like interacting with you. I've lost it. Kev Bennett, I'd rather us do smart business rather than throw money around like Chelsea are. Just because players aren't available doesn't mean we pay stupid money for them. Yeah, I agree with that, buddy. Absolutely. The Chelsea stuff's fascinating. They could be such a mess at some point. They're giving everyone like a 15-year contract. They've spent nearly £1 billion and haven't got a striker, like a proper out-and-out striker. They've got Lukaku, but he's not got a squad number. They just signed Nicholas Jackson, who looks a good player, but he doesn't look like a 20, 30 goal a season man to me. Christopher Nkunku, bit unlucky with that, but he's not really an out-and-out recognised 9 either, is he? So they spent £900 million, give or take, and they don't own a proper striker. Make that make sense. Anxiety, I found your chat. I seen your name. I wanted to bring it up. I assume you'll talk about the Anfield agenda stuff. I didn't understand that. But listen, whatever. Andy Roberts, Matthew Ward, both saying it there. I don't think we'll be doing that, to be honest with you guys. Sorry to disappoint. Yeah. Virgil says, Endo is good, guys. I've watched him for years in the Bundesliga. Yeah, a lot of people have said that, buddy. I hope you're right. And time will tell. Just going to scroll down, make sure I've not missed anything particularly important. I don't think I have. I think we're all okay. Sound. That last story I want to touch upon was about pair shirts. Liverpool, according to Football Insider, have set their sights on pair shirts. Torino centre-back. We were linked with him that time. We had no centre-backs. Do you remember that? Do you remember them days? And yeah, the report basically said he'd cost around 30 million. Liverpool reportedly scouted him last night against Cagliari in their draw. And he's 23, he's Dutch, obviously no Van Dijk, is left-footed, plays centre-back. I don't know what it is with pair shirts. I think it's been a while since we were linked with him heavily. Obviously, when the time we had no centre-backs. But at the time, we didn't want him. So, I don't want him now, either. Quite frankly. Baked asked, I'll come to your comment in a minute, James. Worried about homegrown slots, but sign Adrian. If he's such a presence in the dressing room, offering him a coach's role to 3-1 up, we need more business. Yeah, the Adrian stuff was interesting. I did wonder whether we'd let him go and maybe sign a keeper that doesn't take up one of them slots. We might end up deregistering him at some point, who knows, just to free that space up. But yeah, time will tell on that one. But in terms of your dressing room stuff, yeah, I agree. You could have easily kept him around on a coaching role, or maybe he wanted to carry on being a goalkeeper. I didn't play this weekend, mate, because I was here working Saturday, obviously. But playing this, we got 4 games to go. We're currently 3rd in the league, and I need 11 wickets for 50 for the season, which is always 50 league wickets for the season, which is always my aim every year. So we're getting there. We're getting there. Yeah, I've got a game Saturday coming up. And then, like I say, 4 games left. I'm playing them all as well because fixtures have worked out kindly. And we could get promoted, which would be wonderful. If nobody knows what I'm talking about, I'm talking cricket and talking Liverpool Cricket Club because that's what I play for. Anyway, I think I'm done. Nice way to end the show, talk about cricket. Who wouldn't want to end the show, talk about cricket? That's why I came here, obviously. No, on a serious note, Gravenberch, Andre and Hincapié, possibly. Pershers also as well, seemingly on the radar. Andre stuff is absolutely the most advanced. I got told last night, personal terms agreed. Just a case of Liverpool and Fluminense thrashing out a deal, whether it be this summer, looking more like January right now, if I'm going to be dead honest. Gravenberch remains on the radar. 22 million. Where do I sign? Everybody, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for interacting. Even you lot who wanted me to collab with somebody, that's never, ever gonna happen. Skip to Malou. Dan, fellow baseball player here. Have you ever played Canada manager? It's a little bit like cricket, but I'm a bowler, not a batsman, and they are very different. Anyway, once again, thank you so much. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for getting involved. I'll see you all again very soon. Take it easy.
Thank you so much for watching. The new season is here. Come and join us over on redmenplus.com for fantastic shows, pre and post-match content, journalistic insights into all Liverpool's transfer business, documentaries, interviews, features and more. Head to redmenplus.com, sign up today and fill your boots with Boss Liverpool content.